doesn't have to be stiff and formal. As long as when you're moving around, we're respectful of people speaking and whoever might be asking questions or engaging in dialogue. And good afternoon. I am Senator Angela Bryant, so happy to be serving you in the North Carolina Senate, and so happy to see all of you. Every time I have an event like this, I'm like, I relive being in the 7th grade. If any of you remember having your first party, you know, where you could invite, where you were sort of a teenager, where the parents didn't make them come, where you invited people and you were always worried if anybody was going to come to your party. And so I've gotten over that. Now I can move on with the rest. I am so happy to be here with you and honored and blessed to have been serving you serving you 5 years in the General Assembly, but as a total experience, years of experience, now finishing my 11th year. And to have such an exciting and hard-working delegation to be a part of, it is a pleasure to be here. And such a great tradition, particularly for Wilson County, for electoral and civic activism, a great tradition to have for support and as a role model. We're going to kick this off. Senator Don Davis, I believe, will be joining us, but in his absence, Reverend Bynum will give us our opening prayer.
Shall we bow? Eternal God, our Heavenly Father, the giver of every good and perfect gift, we give you hearty thanks and praise, O God, for this day. And we especially thank you for this opportunity that you have afforded us to come together to study and to look into the issues that concern your people. We thank you, O God, for these leaders who have come. We thank you, O God, for their sacrifice that they make daily. We thank you, O God, for the concerned citizens who have joined us to receive the information that they will share. We thank you, O God, for all that you are to us, and we will be careful to always give your name honor, glory, and praises, because you have been extremely good to us, and you have tremendously blessed us. And for that alone, O God, we thank you. Now, O God, we commit this meeting into your hands. Use it for your honor and glory. For this is your servant prayer. We thank you and we praise you. And all who believe said, Amen. Amen.
You can just say amen again, Sister Davis. I just wanted to, even though my job is to give the state of the Legislative Black Caucus, I just want to have a minute for each of the members on our panel, and there are microphones there by you. If you would just say, oh, you're supposed to welcome everybody? Come on then. Let's welcome Linda Cooper Suggs, the chair of the Wilson County Democratic Party, and the person that gets everybody elected in Wilson County, whoever gets elected.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. And yes, it's my job to welcome each of you for attending this town hall meeting. And as chairperson of the Democratic Party of Wilson County, I can assure you that our elite group of panelists also welcomes you. Senator Bryant, legislators, others, we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be able to understand and to share information with us this afternoon. They're going to do their utmost to address many of the issues that concern not only us, the citizens of Wilson County, but also address issues to help us understand what's going on in our state, our district, and nationally. Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And this is our time just to listen, but not only to listen, but to ask questions, to ask questions and ask more questions. Because when you leave here, we want to make sure that you understand what's taking place within our district and the importance of what we must do right here in Wilson County for us to stay BLUE. And that means that we vote the right way, okay? And we need all of you to do that. So once again, we appreciate your attendance, your participation, and you are welcome.
Nobody will let me keep going. Everybody keeps saying, Governor Hunt, Governor Hunt. They're from out of town. They don't realize we're used to being with Governor Hunt all the time. But we do want to acknowledge that we have Governor and Mrs. Carolyn Hunt in our presence. And he made it clear that he was here to provide support. Now, with each member at the head table, each of the members, starting with Representative Willingham, just give a sentence or two of introduction of yourself.
Good afternoon. Okay, I'm Shelley Willingham, and I represent District 23. That's all of Edgecombe County and all of Edgecombe and Martin County. And this is my senator here. As you notice here, I'm here in between these two young ladies here, and I was looking at Linda's, she had this writing down here, and I was saying I'm glad she did the welcome, because I was wondering if I would be able to compete with all what she had to say when we started talking. So I'm glad she did the welcome, so I don't have to worry about that. The other thing too is that I think they invited me here to represent the House side, because you'll notice these are all senators. So they're in what we call the upper house, so we're kind of lower folks. And so, but I represent the people. All right.
So thankful for my representative, Shelley Willingham. I enjoy sharing Edgecombe and Martin County with him. I'm Erica Smith Ingram. I represent NC Senate District 3, which is 8 counties in eastern North Carolina: Bertie, Chowan, Edgecombe, Hertford, Martin, Northampton, Terrell, and Washington counties. And I'm so excited to be serving with such a great cadre of leadership, and truly to be in the room and talking about what we love in advocacy is just so phenomenal to me. I still stand in awe of Governor Hunt. Y'all might be used to him, but I feel like I'm in the room with a rock star. So I thank you for all you have done for us, and especially as it comes to education, which is one of my priorities.
Well, hello, Wilson County in eastern North Carolina. My name is Don Davis, and I represent the extension of Wilson County. It's called Greene County. Also represent most of Pitt County. I also go over to Kinston, Global Trans Park, and pick up Lenoir County, and then over to Wayne County with Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, predominantly Goldsboro, and heading all the way over to Mount Olive. But I'm always delighted to be here in Wilson County, and we appreciate you dearly.
Yeah, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Anita Earls. I'm Executive Director of the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. We are a nonprofit public interest community lawyering organization, and I'm really pleased and thrilled to be able to share with you some information I have about voting rights today. Thank you.
And let me stop right there for a minute. Speaking of rock stars, Anita Earls has won, is it now 3 cases in the Supreme Court? At least the voter ID case. The redistricting case. And she's also, I can't even keep track, we need a scorecard. She won the Wake County redistricting case when they tried to take over the Wake County Board of Commissioners, the Guilford County case, the school board case in Wake County, and she can tell you about the rest. And the congressional case, the congressional redistricting case. So we can't even keep up with all of her wins, and it's our job to both appreciate her, but we have to make these victories come true on the ground. And so we are blessed to have her with us today. And now our host, local host.
Hi, I am Jean Farmer Butterfield. I represent District 24, portions of Wilson and Pitt counties. I'm in the House of Representatives, so there is someone else here from the House, Representative Willingham. And I have been in the General Assembly since 2003. And I love what I do, and quite frankly, I'm good at it.
Would it be accurate to say you are our senior member?
I'm the senior member
She
here.
is the senior member.
Oh, experience matters.
Of our delegation. Okay. And we want to make sure you have time to interact, so I don't want to take a lot of time. I'm now on the agenda in another role. In addition to representing you, I am fortunate this biennium to be the chair of the North Carolina Legislative Black Caucus. Applause and praise. So I represent 37 members who are people of color, which includes people of African American, Native American, and Asian American descent. So we have a diverse caucus, and the purpose of the Legislative Black Caucus is to represent, to provide a unified political voice for people of color in North Carolina, and by doing so, help to improve and support goals, progressive goals for all of North Carolina. On the table where there are handouts, which now has people sitting in it, which is a great thing. But on the end table, did we move those handouts, or are they still there? They're still there. There are handouts which include a brochure for the Legislative Black Caucus, also budget priorities for the Legislative Black Caucus, and a series of other helpful handouts for you to take. What I will say is a couple of things. First of all, to tell you about our role. In the legislature, we meet in several caucus formats. First of all, we each have party caucuses. In the Senate, there's a Senate Democratic caucus and a Senate Republican caucus, and similarly in the House. So we meet regularly in those caucuses, sometimes daily, where we form our political party positions to the extent we can, forge them, and in many instances we do. We meet in those caucuses. We also have the Legislative Black Caucus, which is one of the oldest, other than the political caucuses, one of the oldest caucuses in the General Assembly. We also have a women's caucus. We have a women's Democratic caucus, and Jean just stepped down as chair of that. And we have a joint Republican and Democratic women's caucus. And then we have sportsmen's caucuses, the agricultural caucus, the life science caucus. I'm co-chair of a caucus called the Life Science and Bioscience Caucus. There are many other caucuses. I can't even give you the list. So we do advocate for specific interests across group memberships through this caucus format. So I just wanted to give that background to many of you. Some people ask me, well, why do you have a Legislative Black Caucus? And of course, in North Carolina, we have a long history of needing to advocate for issues for people of color and African Americans, going back to segregation and coming forward to today. There are clearly a list of issues. We have 4 priorities for this biennium. We call them the 4 E's: education, economics, equitable health care, and equal justice. Those 4 categories will surely not surprise you. The strategy we use is, in those 4 areas, we look for areas in which we can have a particular impact given our constituency. So, teacher pay. We know that the Democratic caucuses are going to have teacher, and the party itself and the governor will have teacher pay as a top issue. So we don't need to pile on that issue that they already will be covering with extensive resources. So we look at what are the particular issues we can focus on and have impact. And when you work together and focus, even though we're in a minority, there is impact we can have. For example, under education, our focus in the budget process, now we have policy focuses and budget focuses. So our focus in the budget process was HBCU funding, because we feel like we're uniquely positioned to advocate for the historically black colleges and universities. If we don't do it, who will do it? And we have members who are alums And now all the caucuses have some members that are alums, which is a good thing. But we have that tradition. And we were, if you look at our budget priority list, we were successful in getting almost all of our goals accomplished, at least in part, as it related to funding for the HBCUs in this biennium. Now, we pick goals that are achievable. Clearly, there are many things we would like to have, and clearly the HBCUs should have and ought to have. But we look at what are the priorities in conjunction with them that they want us to fight for. So we supported the bipartisan effort for something called the NC Promise. How many people know what NC Promise is? NC Promise is this tuition plan that will buy down tuition to $500 per semester for Elizabeth City, Western Carolina, and NC Pembroke. The idea is to see if by buying down tuition, stabilizing it over the college career of the student, we can increase college going in our most underserved communities, in the campuses that are suffering the most from the need for enrollment growth. And so we supported that. In conjunction with that, Elizabeth City got significant additional funding, a couple of $2.5 million for program enhancements they need to make this work. And they got a special authorization to reorganize their debt to make facility improvements. So we're hoping to see significant benefit from that bipartisan work. And so that gives you an example of the points I'm making, and we can take some questions. A&T, for example, is a research doctoral I university. All the other research doctoral I universities got $10 million annually once they reach research doctoral status. A&T never got that. So they made an installment of $2.5 million annually. Not the whole thing they deserve, but it gets us on the playing field toward eliminating that inequity. So that just gives you a sense of a feel for some of the things we have to fight for and work on. North Carolina pre-K, it is uncontroverted that the most important thing we can do for children of color in North Carolina is to get every one of them who is eligible into North Carolina pre-K. That was the governor's priority. I think every researcher would agree that that is a major priority for any group of color. We fought for that. We got 75% of it. But again, that gets us on the way. In economic development, we fought to restore CDBG funding, which for neighborhood revitalization, which will be important here in Wilson because you still get your CDBG funding from the state. You're not yet an entitlement city, getting your own block grant from the federal government. So the Republicans had eliminated any neighborhood revitalization funding under CDBG. For those who know about, how many people know about CDBG? It's hard for some people to even believe that because that is the heart and soul of CDBG. So we got that restored. Okay, so I'm not going to go through each category, but under healthcare, of course, our major priority was expanding Medicaid. We think we made some improvements in moving that forward. Even the Republicans introduced a bill to expand Medicaid, but we didn't get there. But we were able to get the Healthy Food Initiative funded and to eliminate that, the elimination of the Senate was going to eliminate food stamps for people who are currently eligible to have them. And so we were able to fight that off. Under equal justice, you'll hear more about raising the juvenile justice age. We got our local reentry council funded, as well as one of the citizens already asked about the expunction bill we're going to talk about. And I think I covered every healthcare, economic, I covered every area. So that gives you a sense of of some of our priorities and what things we have to work on. From a policy perspective, of course, we've been focusing on Hurricane Matthew as a priority, as well as other areas that you will hear about, and raising the minimum wage. There are certain standard priorities that we normally fight for in every session, and we continue to do so. So I'm going to stop here and see if there are any questions for me about the Legislative Black Caucus, why we exist, what we've been doing, And our program going forward will be to have at least 5 or 6 events like this around the state with communities to talk about our priorities, to engage with the community, and to help empower you to move forward in this unified effort for the issues that we find in agreement. Questions or comments? Yes, sir.
If these schools that are involved, if we don't get more senators into the House, will the state continue to support these colleges? Because at $500, they can afford to stay in business with those kind of rates. So what's going to happen in the future? And what's your plan to protect them?
Right. Well, we'll have to continue to fight for that, but it is structured so that the buy down is automatically put into reserve in the budget. So it would have to be eliminated. It is a recurring part of the buy down. The amount of money the state has to put in, which is around $50-some million, I think it is. Yeah, and that may increase as costs go up, but that is built into the budget in a recurring fashion as a reserve. Okay, and so, but nothing is permanent in lawmaking. So of course it can change, and we would have to be prepared for that. Yeah, right. Well, we would hope we wouldn't lose our schools. We just have to start paying tuition at the rate that we were paying. And I would assume we would not do that with any students who had signed up under that. And generally, when those kind of things happen in the legislature, it would start at a certain point going forward after all the students who expected that arrangement have finished. Usually that's the way we do those kind of. If we decided to end the program, that would be normally the way it would be done. But we have to be ready for anything. Yeah, so that's always a concern. Any other questions or comments on the Legislative Black Caucus itself? Yes.
Could you tell me the reason why the Legislative Black Caucus came into existence? Is it effective, and how can citizens help if need to?
Well, the Legislative Black Caucus came in existence because of discrimination we faced in, first of all, getting to the legislature. So initially, we only had a few that were, they could all meet in one small room, all the legislators we had, and there were previous cases that redistricting cases that expanded, that eliminated gerrymandering, that excluded us from the legislature, that got us to the legislature. And even though we get there, it doesn't mean that racism is over. I mean, there we are now confronting it ever the more up close and personal in terms of both policy making and politically, as we have to navigate to use power in that body. So it was determined by the founders of the caucus that by coming together as a group, we could strategize, work together across both chambers to enhance and make ourselves more effective. And I think over time we have done that through electing a speaker. We've had major when Democrats were in the majority, and when Democrats were in the majority, we had to fight too on some of these same issues. But we worked our way through the system as a unified body, and so then now we've had to shift to do that as a minority, and we now have the biggest number we ever have had, unfortunately, because of racial gerrymandering. I mean, we are the majority of the Democrats in both chambers. We're the majority of the Democratic caucuses in both chambers, and so our issues are new every day in terms of the ways race show up, and racial discrimination and racial disparities show up, and we are having to develop new, and we hope you will get a sense today of some of the new strategies we are now having to develop to overcome the racism that we face now as compared to the racism we faced when the caucus got started. Though some of what we faced is still here. Any other comments so we can move on?
Just a quick one. And you just explained why we got started. And we got more than we've ever had now. Are we a united front now?
Well, let me put it like this. I think, and so there's some watchers here, like Henry. Some people maybe here who watch us in the General Assembly might help me out, and we do need to move on. But I think I think this list, if you look at both the budget, as a minority, the budget priorities we had, as well as if I could talk to you about even some of the substantive priorities we had, I think people would say that we operated strongly as a unified front. Now, there are areas where we disagree. And as we disagreed, it doesn't mean that we still don't work together in unity. I'm going to use the example. Senator Erica Smith Ingram and she voted for the budget because of things she felt like she needed to do in her counties. The Black Caucus's position was supporting the governor with the budget, and we couldn't vote for a budget that struck out at the governor and Josh Stein, and even though we won some other things in the budget that we wanted. And so in those areas we disagree. And yet we still have a unified, there are ways we work together when it comes down to it. And then you'll look at our votes on most governors' vetoes, we're right there in lockstep. So there are times politically when we come together and we hope to continue to do that. Now, it's not easy. The work is not easy.
I wanted to comment on that too. Angela is modest. As chair of the Black Caucus, and I've been there since 2003, she has kept us organized and focused. And everybody knows what the legislative priorities are because of the way she structures our organizational meetings and our retreats. So if you look at the leadership style and how things are organized in the Black Caucus, in my opinion, is one of the best we've ever had as a body since I got there in 2003. And if people are not participatory, not informed, she goes overboard to make sure that they are well informed and they know exactly what the issues are so they can take a strong position based on their constituents and based on what the caucus's position is.
Okay, so we're going to stop now. I hope you have enough of the Black Caucus. We can talk more about it as we go on. But the important guest we have is Anita Earls. I've already introduced her, so I'm going to have her to come up and talk to you about, she has, I think she said 4 items she wants to cover with us. And we'll help hand out anything